Blessings, family. Hello, YouTube. Preparing here for this wonderful gathering. I'm so grateful to come together for these beautiful, beautiful gatherings of mind, of heart, of awakening. It is such a gift. Pardon me. It is such a gift to be here with you now and always. We're just getting started here in 1 minute on the metaphysics of karma. There's so much information too today. I'm so very excited to share with you. I love having this opportunity. I love having this opportunity to be with you. I really, really do. I'm so very grateful. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to 4D Trinity. I am tuesdaymaythomas, and this is the weekly live stream where we talk about and discuss aspects that serve our awakening, our understanding of the metaphysical aspects that are a part of our ascension process, that are a part of our realizing our oneness. And what I share about when we say 4D, it's really fourth dimensional consciousness. Dear Will coined the term 4DC, fourth dimensional consciousness, which is a level of awakening, a level of awareness with its roots in the heart, the tiny space of the heart, that divine sacred space that connects us with God, source, love, and light. And in that divine sacred space, we remember our oneness. We remember that we are one here together. And we come together, mind, body, emotions with spirit. And it is spirit that has that divine knowledge of wisdom. Spirit holds our Holy Grail hologram. That Holy Grail hologram is directly wired to God, to source, to all love and light in the universe. And it is all of our practices that we assume and that we do that help to reorient and align us with remembering that. And that's what 4D Trinity is all about. What I share here is intended to help us bridge the gap where there may be gaps between mind, body, emotions, and spirit, and to find that divine synchronization of all of these aspects of self multidimensionally, so that we can remember our unity, we can remember our oneness. And when we do remember our oneness, the way that we experience life completely changes. Can I get an amen? So welcome and blessings, everyone. Thank you for hopping on YouTube, on Instagram, and at Facebook. Today's topic is the metaphysics of karma. So karma generally speaks to this notion of action, of deed, of word, of thought, which we are constantly alchemating. We are constantly creating conditions for ourselves to experience this matrix through our thoughts, through our words, through our deeds. Karma, repetitive cycles, right? We think of patterns. I'm going to invite you to think about past lives and reincarnation today also, and perhaps how those aspects are sitting with you, how they work with you. Who walks with you now along your path? Who are your companions of destiny? Your mother, your father, your family, your friends, divine, acquaintances on social media that perhaps you have not met in person, yet you've had many exchanges with through the Wi-Fi webs. And so there's a sense of family, there's a sense of connection, and how we are all interrelated and how we all hold space for each other. And so what are your current karmas? What are you currently working with now? We think about, we'll go back to school. How was school for you? I know I was bullied in school. Was that a part of my karma? Was that a part of your karma? What about work? How does work work out for you? What jobs, what gifts have you come in with karmically that are your natural abilities, your natural talents? Your relationships, how are your relationships in this lifetime? What karmic bridges are you working with at this time? I know I've had my share of karmic relationships. How are your relationships doing? Have you been married and divorced several times? Not that there's any good or bad or right or wrong, but how does that look? And what are the cycles that repeat themselves? Do you continually get involved with someone who disrespects you or that harms you? Or are you working through a different paradigm? Maybe your relationships are rooted in understanding the dynamics of money, understanding the dynamics of compassion, of healing, right? So who's walking with you? What's your karma status relationship wise? Have you worked out karmas of your relationships in this lifetime, where perhaps you had a consistent pattern, a karma of being in a relationship that was abusive? And perhaps you've worked through various steps of healing to come to a point now where you no longer have that karma. You no longer have to go through those lessons in order to remember to realize your oneness, your unity consciousness within that divine paradigm of relating sacredly and intimately with another. What about money? How's your money karma? How's that going for you? Do you have incessant thoughts that are about not having enough, about lack, or do you not think of that way at all? Are your thoughts rooted in that which is allowing divine abundance of all blessed ways and things to come and to be a part of your life experience? What about your car, your home, your health? What health karmas have you come into this lifetime with? Is there a situation you were born into it with? I know several people who were born into having HIV. They were born with cancer, with leukemia. What karmas have you brought in with yourself? And maybe you just continually spring your ankle, and that's a thing that you've been working out. That was one of my things when I was younger, is I had this repetitive karma of spraining my ankle, like year after year after year. It was almost the same time every year, until eventually I decided that I didn't need to do that any longer. Were you adopted? Are you a foster child? Do you come from a family of one? Are you an only child with a poor family? Or are you a child of 6 in a rich family? What karmas have you come in with? What about sex? Have you been abused? I won't speak for everyone, but I know many have been through that experience of sexual initiation in that way as a youth, or really any age in life. Again, what are the gifts? What are the abilities? What are your fears? What fears have you come in with in this lifetime? Are you afraid of sharks? And sometimes we don't even know how deep our fears run until we're in a certain situation that puts us in place of experiencing them. I know I realized the depth of my fear of sharks when a partner that I was with in Australia back in 2000 gifted us a scuba diving certification course, and he was very excited about it, and my face just dropped. And all of a sudden it was like dun 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 dun. As soon as he was like, wow babe, I got these, we're gonna go in this 10-day thing and we're gonna get certified, and all of a sudden what do I see? I see the shark fin in my mind's eye, and that's all that came up for me until the day where we had to do our first dive, and I was the last one in, holding back, crying, bawling. Finally they got me in, and when I got into the water I was hyperventilating. The dive master had to come up and put me on my back and remind me to breathe and calm me down and tell me that it was much calmer underwater than on the top layer of the waves. I didn't even know I had that depth of a visceral cellular memory, that karmatic pattern of being afraid of sharks. Many years later, I started, well, not many years, let's see, if that was in 2000, maybe around 2003, 4, 5, I'd have to check my book to make sure, but that's when I started floating in isolation tanks. And I remember I had this one float where I went back in time and I asked, what is this fear of sharks about? Because it was still very dominant with me. And it took me into a vision where I was a sailor with some other men in a small boat. And I was in the water and a shark had attached itself to my leg. And the other ferrymen were pulling me onto this little boat, and the shark was still attached to my leg. And now while I'm having this vision in the float tank, I could feel this leg tingle up, like the memory, that karma, that memory was still there. And in this in this vision, then the boat guys are trying to hit the shark on the nose with oars, and eventually it opened its jaws and released. But I had this massive gaping wound. I had still had my leg, but it was interesting. Then sometime after that, I went back into the tank and I resolved that karma, and I had a deep meeting with the shark family. Not to say that there aren't still a few little like ooh little thrills when there's a body of ocean water. Yet for the most part, that has been dissolved. What karmas are you walking with now? And let's think about this for a moment. I love this definition. Now, we've got a lot of reading today, which I'm very grateful. Thank you for hopping on, everyone, and for saying hi. Blessings at Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. I'm so very grateful. So this book is Vibrational Medicine. Okay, Richard Gerber, MD. And he gives a really wonderful definition of karma in the glossary. Karma, the reincarnational principle, sometimes stated as ye sow, so shall ye reap. An energetic system of credits and debits or checks and balances, which allows the soul to experience the full range of perspectives on life. So if we think that we are this one, we are this God source, we are this divine aspect that really is formless, that really is beyond this physical body, this mortal being that we are in this matrix, and that we are taught we are that in the matrix. We remember our oneness. As we remember our oneness, we go beyond those karmas, we go beyond those densities. Now I'm going to be reading from Universal One, and I want to give a very heartfelt extension of gratitude to Bosna City. And I never know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, my brother, but I love you very dearly. And he's a companion of destiny for me, someone that I know from Instagram for years now, that we've had just continual interactions of a beautiful high order. I've never met this person in my life. He sent me this book. So I thank you with all of my heart. He sent it with me with regards to the work I'm doing with the film I'm creating called Grid Mind Science. If you're hopping on from Grid Mind Science, I'm so very grateful that you're here. I want to talk about reincarnation through Walter Russell speaking on it. Page 51, concerning reincarnation. Death is a life period of sleep for total bodily regeneration, just as the daily sleep is for partial bodily regeneration. Regeneration of the soul is reincarnation of the body. The chemistry of the soul of all idea, the soul of all idea, karma, action, thoughts, words, idea. The chemistry of the soul of all idea is registered in the master tones known as the inert gases, the ether or the Akashik records. The soul is the matrix of the body, just as the master tones are the matrices of the elements. The inert master tones, the Akashic, the ether, of an octave of the elements contain a complete and exact record, the Akashic records, of every effect of motion within its octave. The Akashic, as we've been speaking about for several shows now, holds and records every thought, every word, every action that we've ever given rise to through our awareness, through our consciousness, through our thoughts, actions, words, and deeds. It holds the blueprint of all the karmas that we've marked and that we continue to mark with every moment. The soul of man contains a complete and exact record of every action and reaction of thinking man. So we walk with our karmic memories. And you know what we say here? We say that the matrix runs on memory. The matrix runs on memory. Memory is what the Akashic holds. Memory is what our bodies hold. Cellular memory. We're going to talk about the grid matrix of collective consciousness and the Akashic records here as a little diversion, because I want to explain to you. And I'm very excited to make a proper piece of art for this. But I've talked about it a little bit before. We think about the Akashic records as being the subconscious collective consciousness, or at least that's what has been given to me to share with you. In regards to this memory keeper, and for just this metaphor to understand it, we think about that subconscious because we think about the basement, the root aspect of memory that runs us, the Akashic being under us, say. And we think about the grid matrix of collective consciousness being above us for this metaphor. So all of this memory that's stored in the subconscious realm, all of these contracts, these agreements, these notions, these things that we've put into action through this lifetime, through many lifetimes, if you believe in that, is what runs us unconsciously, subconsciously. It's what we are pulling from these Akashic records to be informed by. From this memory, we pull it into, this is our third dimensional reality here, where our little character Pepe is existing in the matrix, in this simulation, pulling from the memory, from the Akashic, pulling from those karmas, from those memories. And from that memory, either consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, extending them as thought, as word, as deed, as action, which sends forth a dynamic through the grid matrix, which at its beginning phase is a universal sea of atomic superposition soup. So we think about the atoms that make us up and that make up all of reality. They're just taking their cues from us, from our thoughts, actions, words, and deeds, from the repetition of the karmas that we've accumulated or that we've co-created through our life and through our various lifetimes. And from the pulling and the drawing from those Akashic records, consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, a lot of it subconscious, we are repeating thoughts, words, repeating karma, cycles, patterns, repeating thoughts, actions, words, and deeds until we remember our oneness, our unity. So we pull from the Akashic, generate energetically through this universal sea of atomic superposition soup that then, right, here we are, here's another visual of Pepe, that then extends from us into the grid matrix of collective consciousness. And from that superposition soup, where all the potentials and probabilities are kept for us to draw from, to plug into through that collective consciousness of the grid, we imagine that which is above us. We then pull down from this grid matrix the elements that compose and co-create our reality in this matrix, that create our simulation, our experience of the simulation, whether it be one that is we enjoy to have or otherwise. And I appreciate the comments. I'm going to keep going and we'll check in with those in a little bit. So what are we repeating here? What's the karma? What are your circumstances? So we think about, this is the metaphysics of karma. And what is the metaphysics? It is the first principles. It is the hidden, it is the invisible realms behind how things work, behind what is working, beyond what we see here in the third dimension as our reality. Okay, so getting back to Walter Russell, we're going to read from page 20. Thinking is registered in matter. It has elsewhere been written that matter is the registration of the divine idea of thinking mind, karma, action. Thoughts are action. Words are action. Deeds are action. Man is familiar with the thinking process in his own daily experiences, right? Our very third dimensional way of thinking. We're familiar with this. Consider for a moment the concentrative thinking of man in conceiving idea. So going to this idea of what we were just explaining. Is not the idea at first nebulous, and as man concentrates electrically in his thinking, is not the idea more and more distinct in form? So the more you think about something, the more you bring it about, the more you give it the okay to have legs, as it were, to give it form from a formless state of being into that which is. I was working with a client the other night, and she was having a very hard time. And she was really, really concerned about being ill and taking her temperature every 5 minutes to see if she had a fever. Now, she was in a loop. She was in that moment in a karmic loop of being concerned that she had gotten other people sick with no evidence, with no proof of that. Yet in this karmic loop of while we were on the phone doing counsel, of taking her temperature over and over again, and she's like, thinking that she's sick, and because attaching this to some idea that she had gotten other people sick, and so needing the proof in the third dimension that she actually was ill. Now, and while we were on the phone at a certain point, and she's frazzled, the temperature did go up. And we were talking through this process of how we co-create our reality and how we can uncreate that same reality as well. Now, by the end of the call, the temperature had gone down. By the very next day, she was not ill at all. Any symptoms that she had a sore throat, she felt like this and XYZ, were completely gone. She had done the work. She had exercised her willingness to come back to unity, to come back to oneness, to drop the story that was creating the indifference, the incoherence, so that coherency could be that potential for her. And it is, and it was. Is not the idea at first nebulous, and as man concentrates electrically in his thinking, is not the idea more and more distinct in form? I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. I'm going to get sick. I'm going to get sick. Oh, the God phone. Okay, we'll continue this in just a moment. Hello? Hey, God. God says hi. Blessings. Yes, I know it's a beautiful, beautiful day, isn't it? Glorious. All right, and God is offering this repetition, and often this is what God will say on this God phone, is this repetition of bringing us back to this idea that God is a verb, that God is love in motion, and that our connection with God, with source, with love, is that which allows the dismantling of karma as we know it. That is beautiful. That is powerful. And God is saying that what we're going to be reading here is going to help to add up those pieces for us even more. We're going to read, I'm so excited about that. We're going to read from the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. I'm so grateful. Okay, blessings, dear God. God says peace. Thank you. Wonderful. Oh, there goes the God phone. Okay, so let's finish reading this little piece here. So what we think about, we bring about. Right? Yet, and does not that form remain clear and distinct so long as man concentrates dynamically upon thinking that idea, whether it's a positive idea, could be seen as perhaps a negative idea. When man's concentration relaxes, does not the idea become more and more nebulous in form and more indistinct until it is but a memory? So again, we can use our conscious awakening power and awareness of oneness to bring that which we have so heartedly and powerfully dawned onto our reality from the Akashik, through the grids, into our third dimensional experience. Yet, what does Walter say? He says, when we relax, right? That's when the thing that's beginning to come, dun, 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 the shark, right? If you've been watching from the beginning, as I relaxed my thoughts about being eaten by a shark, the shark disappeared from my mind. It's not a thing that's always there. As my client relaxed her thinking away from, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, I've gotten other people sick, this is awful. As she relaxed away from that grid that she was creating that was then informing her reality and making the temperature on the thermometer get stronger and stronger, began to dissolve until she let it go to such a degree it went back into that atomic superposition soup, and it was allowed and given the right of way to become a new experience for her, a new experience that was rooted in peace, that was rooted in her health and wellness, rooted in God, in love. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the love. Thank you for hopping on, everyone. God is light. So I'm going to continue reading from the bottom of page 20. The Universal One, Walter Russell. Light, as man knows light, is but an unstable simulation of the real light of the Universal One. Man's concept of light is luminosity, right? We turn the light switch on. We have light. Man's concept of light. An illusion. Okay, so man's concept of light is luminosity, an illusion of the universal light of inertia, which is the state of rest where nothing changes, i.e. the matrix. Okay, some things change in the matrix, but the matrix is as the matrix does. Sustained, okay, so this illusion of universal light of inertia is sustained in its appearance as an illusion of light by the pressures generated through motion. Motion being that karma, that thought, idea, word that you give rise to energetically from your mind, from your body, from your being, and as it connects to the universe and gifts you back your experience. The inner mind of ecstatic man knows real light and that he is one with light. So the inner mind of ecstatic man, so this is where we've gone beyond this thinking that we're just a body, but where we've gone into that realization of our unity with one, with God, with light, with source. When we have that inner mind of ecstatic man knows the real light, that he is one with light. He is not deceived by its illusion. When we are one, we know we are not this matrix. We know we are not this body. And the matrix dissolves. It disappears. And that's what fourth dimensional consciousness is all about. It's about dropping into that heart center, moment by moment by moment, using your spiritual willpower, moment by moment, which is your voice for God, higher self, which is you channeling that divine inner wisdom that helps to navigate your way in this matrix and generate the coordinates, the set points that you find yourself at in this simulation. And eventually what happens is that we match our thought, our word, our karma. We match that with love, with light, with God, to the degree that the simulation becomes no longer the simulation with the small s, no longer the reality with the little r, but it becomes the simulation with the big S instead of the small s. We begin to drop into the present moment instead of being in those karmic ties related to past and future, which are all memory rooted in the Akashik. We go beyond that by connecting with love, with light, with God, with source, giving that power, that frequency, the right of way through us, dissolves the illusion of the matrix, the simulation with the little s, the reality with the little r, and gives rise to the reality with the large r, the simulation with the large s. We move into the present moment beyond future and past. We're no longer repeating things, karmic, memory, unconsciously, subconsciously from the past. And so creating that same future for ourselves, we no longer are doing that. And so we are at once free. We begin to find ourselves at the doorway of now with the little n in the present. The present is that sacred space that we begin to understand. Oh, there's a whole different field. There's a whole different matrix. There's a whole different simulation here when I'm rooted in God and love and light. And when I use my conscious word and thought to go beyond those karmas and those memories that would have me on repeat and repeating those same aspects over and over again, those same lessons. And from that space of entering that gateway of the tiny space in the heart and coming into a frequency with the little n, then we gain entry into stepping through the gateway into the now with the big N, which is fourth dimensional consciousness, which is that tiny space in the heart. It's the torus field, the torus geometry consciousness that is a part of our inherent makeup, is a part of our inherent geometrical makeup. It belongs to all of us. One doorway. I see that. I got my glasses on. Blessings, Reiki, the energy. All right. So I feel like there was something else I was supposed to read in here, but I believe we'll move on. Now, it's interesting thinking about karma here for a moment before we read. As I said, the God phone called and wants us to read from Autobiography of a Yogi. We think about karma, there's a lot of memes. Life is full of memes. And there's some memes going around. Yeah, and I'm just pulling this. But that it's like, if it happens, if they're doing it in your presence, then it's your karma. And okay, fine, fair enough. So there's, someone's being mean to you. Oh, you've been mean. And so now you're getting what comes back to you. Yet there's an aspect that speaks to, you don't have to take on what is being displayed to you. If someone's having a full-on kriya, a full-on freak out in your presence, you don't have to get freaked out by their freak out. You can see that they're running their karma, they're doing their dance, and you can be detached, be a detached observer. That means having your vision aligned with the vision of God. So you are not consciously or subconsciously, unconsciously co-creating as an observer, creating an effect which gathers and generates even more of the panic or of the whatever the person might be going through, but you are simply detached and observing. So you can hold space of your own. So just because someone's having a freak out or trying to do something bad to you doesn't mean you have to take it on, or you don't have to perceive it as being bad to you. You can simply observe it. And in your just observing it, the parts of you that were walking with that thing, that aspect being able to have its reality displayed in your presence begin to dissolve. It is when we react that we continue to generate those parts of us that are willing to have that person have that experience in our presence. And to the degree that we interact with it and how we interact with it is going to determine the sustaining of that memory through us and the way that will then continue to be a part of our experience. A dear one, Emmett, who I'm so grateful to be reconnected with, he said to me many, many years ago that karma it belongs to the person. It belongs to the person. So, if someone's being a grumpelstiltskin, as I like to call it, they're all, what Emmett was saying, and if he's around, please hop on and clarify, because this was in New York. So this was a very long time ago, very, very long time ago, before 2000. But he was saying that if they're, grumpelstiltskin, that they're already in their karma, that's how they are living and holding their space. It's not about, it can be, but it's not necessarily about what they're going to be generating from that. And we have discussed that there is that aspect, of course, with karma. Yet there's this aspect of it's already here. Look around yourself. Again, how we started this show at the beginning. If you missed it, go back and watch from the beginning. What does your surroundings tell you about the karma that you have now? For me, in this life, I have never bought a vehicle. I have never bought a car. Every single car that I have has been gifted to me. I've got good car karma. What good karmas do you have in this life? I have good house karma. I always land on my feet when it comes. Now, I've had some, funny little things with landlords and stuff, of course, over the years. But generally speaking, I'm always with a home, give thanks and praise. I always have food, give thanks and praise. I always have a vehicle. And even when I didn't have a vehicle at times, I had a bus pass. But for the most part, I've been given at least 4 or 5 cars on my journey so far. So again, we think about the karmas we're walking with now, our health, our healing, our finances, our relationships, the lessons that we're rerunning, and understanding that those can be shifted. Those can be shifted. Now, there's so much from this book that I've highlighted that I want to read to you that help to put this stuff together. And So going beyond karma. So from Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi, if you have not read it yet, please, this is like one, if you're on your spiritual path, this is one that we keep on the shelf. This is one we continue to go back to. So we've got a bit of reading, so get your tea, chill out, or do your housework, and just let's soak this in. Page 39. Just to preface this, Yogananda knew, before he was Yogananda, he knew that he was destined. He knew that, well, I won't say the word destined, but he knew that he was a monk, that he was to be a monk in the lifetime that he had. Yet there were still, in these Indian families, they do astrological charts, they do marriages that are set up, et cetera, et cetera. And sort of your life path to a degree is determined for you. Anata took me to their home. The son, a young man of ebullient manner, greeted me in the courtyard. He engaged me in a lengthy philosophic discourse. Professing to have a clairvoyant knowledge of my future, he discountenanced my idea of being a monk, saying, "You will meet continual misfortune and be unable to find God if you insist on deserting your ordinary responsibilities. You cannot work out your past karma without worldly experiences." Now, isn't that interesting? Because there is so much of this, do a good deed and you're going to nullify the bad deeds, etc. And there is an aspect, right? This is a part of how karma works in this third dimension. Yogananda says, "Immortal words from the Bhagavad Gita rose to my lips in reply. Even he with the worst of karma, who ceaselessly meditates on me, quickly loses the effects of his past bad actions, becoming a high-souled being. Soon he attains perennial peace. Know this for certain. The devotee who puts his trust in me never perishes." So do you feel your light or lightness diffuse matter as it appears? Does your lightness have the capability to diffuse the polarity, the polarized aspects of matter as it appears in your third dimensional reality? So what this speaks to, this little passage, is that in the Bhagavad Gita is saying, like, as long as you're tuned with God, as long as you're focused and attuned with that God source, that it has the power beyond your earthly trying to do the right thing or doing the right thing, which has value, obviously. Yet even beyond that, when you plug into God, to source, to light, to that which is in this world, yet beyond this world, all of those karmas, all of those memories in the Akashik that you are now projecting as reality through the grid, they dissolve in the light of your awareness, in the light of your divine realization and connection with God. I love that. So yes, we can hustle. We can, you've been a mean person. Think about the Scrooge story, and then all of a sudden you have these realizations, you have this nightmare, the ghosts come to you and you're like, wow, I got to make things right. And you go forth in the third dimension and you extend kindness where perhaps you withheld love. You extend, a generosity where perhaps in the past you had a lack consciousness around sharing money or sharing your time or your energy or whatever it might be. Now, okay, so now here's a bit of a lengthy bit. Page, just in case you want to know, page 182. All parts of creation are linked together. Now we're talking about the matrix. We're talking about all the matrices. You are a matrix. The Akashic records is a matrix. The grid matrix is a matrix. And it's all mind. It's all memory. And it's all interconnected. We think about how your body, how your experiences, how your thoughts are interconnected with others, and how they exist in a resonant field, and how, again, what you think about, you bring about. Excuse me. All parts of creation are linked together and interchange their influences. The balanced rhythm of the universe is rooted in reciprocity, my guru continued. Man, in his human aspect, has to combat two sets of forces. First, the tumults within his being caused by the admixture of earth, water, fire, air, and ethereal elements. Second, the outer disintegrating powers of nature. So long as man struggles with his mortality, so long as we only think we are a body, He is affected by the myriad mutations of heaven on earth, of heaven and earth. Mutations of heaven and earth. I mean, that's the 3D matrix. It's full of mutations, right? Yet again, when we come into that divine alignment with our Taurus consciousness, with that tiny space in the heart, with God's source love, the mutations of heaven on earth dissolve, and heaven on earth is given the right of way to be our experience. We bridge heaven on earth through our energy body vehicle. Astrology is the study of man's response to planetary stimuli. The stars have no conscious benevolence or animosity. They merely send forth positive and negative radiations. Of themselves, these do not help or harm humanity, but offer a lawful channel for the outward operation of cause-effect equilibriums. Cause-effect karma, equilibriums being, just as Walter Russell was saying earlier, just as we were pointing to, equilibriums being bringing it back to God's source love, right? What if, there's this divine power in karmas? They're not a bad thing. That there's a divine power in them that is allowing us, again, to come back to remembering our unity, our oneness, and so to go beyond them. Of themselves, they do not help or harm humanity, astrology, the planets, but offer a lawful channel for the outward operation of cause-effect equilibriums that each man has set into motion in the past. In the past. The past no longer exists, yet it is recorded in the Akashik. A child is born on that day and at that hour when the celestial rays are in mathematical harmony with his individual karma. His horoscope is a challenging portrait, revealing his unalterable past and its probable future results. Again, we have past and future in your astrology chart. Why have you come in now with these aspects? What are your karmas now that you're bringing in to work out, to be served by, to have lessons through, that are ultimately interconnected with all other people, places, and things? Vajra Queen says, Jai Guru. But the natal chart can be rightly interpreted only by men of intuitive wisdom. These are few. The message boldly blazoned across the heavens at the moment of birth is not meant to emphasize fate, the result of past good and evil, but to arouse man's will to escape from his universal thraldom. Thraldom. So again, it's not that it's like, oh, I'm this victim, I have these issues, I've got these aspects, I've got to be this victim of this life and having all of these things go wrong or whatever all these lessons are. It's like, okay, you can look at it that way, but you can also see it as this map that allows you to understand how to navigate your highest potential, so you can have the experience of your highest potential timelines at any given directive, money, relationships, health, etc., in any time and space. What he has done, he can undo. Now, this is the biggest thing. What you have done karmically, you can undo. None other than himself was the instigator of the causes of whatever effects are now prevalent in his life. He can overcome any limitation because he created it by his own actions in the first place, and because he possesses spiritual resources that are not subject to planetary pressure. Let's think about this. I think we're still in Mercury retrograde. And we have this thing, all the memes go around, oh, retrograde, here we go, blah, 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 all this computer crashing. Or I know that the driver's side of the handle on my door, it snapped in half right in the middle. Right? So there's like these funny things that can happen in retrograde. Yet we don't have to be a victim of them. Again, that's like that idea of that person standing in front of you and maybe having a blowout or cat trying to be, just having a freak out onto you. And again, it's how you react or respond, whether you stay detached or not, is going to shape shift how that karma interfaces with you and how you interface with it. Now, I could have been like, oh man, everything happens to me. I got to go to this thing. Now I have to get in through the other side of the car. I can't open the thing. Oh, how much is this going to cost? Oh man. And then get into a whole thing about money and get into a whole thing about I'm going to be late. It's like, instead I laughed and I was like, okay, Dukes of Hazzard style, here we go. And thankfully, I give thanks and praise. There's the financial abundance to help to fix that third dimensional happenstance. Superstitious awe of astrology makes one automaton, slavishly dependent on mechanical guidance. So it's like, okay, if this is what's happening, what do I do? How do I get out of it? Show me, tell me, what do I do? Which is, of course, this, we go to astrologers, we go to tarot readers, we go to psychics, and we're like, okay, I need some advice, which is fine, which is what we can do to help ourselves navigate it, but ultimately to learn and to understand that there is a really a divine advice that is always here. And as we plug into it and connect with it, all of the answers are revealed. And we don't have to be a slave to Mercury retrograde. We don't have to be a slave or to the paradigms that we've come in from the Akashik in our chart through this present dynamic of our experience. The wise man defeats his planets, which is to say his past, by transferring his allegiance from the creation to the creator. The more he realizes his unity with spirit, the less he can be dominated by matter. That's what we've been saying. The soul is ever free. It is deathless because birthless. It cannot be regimented by stars. Man is a soul and has a body. When he properly places his sense of identity, when you know and remember that you are not this body, he leaves behind all compulsive patterns. So long as he remains confused with his ordinary state of spiritual amnesia, the matrix of duality, as long as we're confused and stuck in that loop of repeating these karmas, these cycles, he will know the subtle fetters of environmental law. So you will be subject to them. God is harmony. The devotee who attunes himself will never perform any misaction. So again, when we align with higher self, when we say, higher self, tell me what to do. God, show me what to say, where to go. Right? As is in A Course in Miracles, that prayer. All of a sudden, and when we allow ourselves to trust, mystic gift of trust in the heart, when we allow ourselves to trust what is given as guidance and speak those words and do those actions, then we stop creating karma as we've learned it, which creates a past regarding any negative connotation that we have to rerun as a victim or as a slave to a certain paradigm in order for it to be purged and realized. We can go beyond that. Okay. His activities will be correctly and naturally timed to accord with astrological law. Now, I know this little blip here, this little passage is speaking specific about astrology, but it speaks to the greater whole. When you're attuned with God, source, love, your higher self, and you're channeling that on purpose, your activities will be correctly and naturally timed. There's no time as such, yet in this third dimension, it is a tool, an aspect we work with. And when we channel our higher selves, when we move in accordance with the divine within us, time disappears and we are placing our awareness, our actions, we're creating karmas that don't create any more negative karmas. But we start to synchronize with that divine coherency of the heart wisdom, of that Taurus consciousness, that fourth dimensional consciousness, and enter heaven on earth realization. After deep prayer and meditation, he is in touch with his divine consciousness. There is no greater power than that inward protection. Then, dear master, why do you want me to wear an astrological bangle? Now, for Self-Realization Fellowship, which is the fellowship that was ordained through Paramahansa Yogananda, many of the devotees, they wear these bracelets. And I'm not as devotee as such. I'm not a Kriya Ban or anything, but I have done the Babaji Kriya Yoga Initiation Level 1 many years, probably close to 20 years ago. And I can't get the bangle off. So anyway, it is a bangle of copper, brass, and silver. This little one right here. And many of them wear, sometimes they're larger. There it goes. Sometimes they're larger. And you've probably seen these, right? There's like for arthritis or for different ailments, you can wear bangles or bands made in such a way. So this is a very predominant aspect that the SRFers are with this bracelet, with these bangles. Okay. So Yogananda's guru is saying, like, we can go beyond all the karmas and all these paradigms. And Yogananda, as this young devotee, is saying, well, then why do you want me to wear this bangle if we can just go beyond it through connecting with God? Yogananda continues, I ventured this question after a long silence. I had tried to assimilate Sri Yukteswar's noble exposition. Sri Yukteswar is Yogananda's guru, which contained thoughts very new to me. It is only when a traveler, okay, so this is Sri Yukteswar. It is only when a traveler has reached his goal that he is justified in discarding his maps. During the journey, he takes advantage of any convenient shortcut. The ancient rishis discovered many ways to curtail the period of man's exile and delusion. There are certain mechanical features in the law of karma that can be skillfully adjusted by the fingers of wisdom. All human ills arise from some transgression of universal law. The scriptures point out that man must satisfy the laws of nature while not discrediting the divine omnipotence. He should say, Lord, I trust in thee and know thou canst help me, but I too will do my best to undo any wrong I have done. So until we are completely God realized and we're only living our dharma, which is that where you're living constantly from as your higher self and creating just clear heaven on earth reality realization, until that time, when you're not creating negative progression of karmas, right? You're going to keep connecting with God. You're going to meditate every day, do your practices, but you're also going to be conscious and forgive where you know you need to forgive, or ask for forgiveness, or do the kind thing, etc., to nullify where there are the polarized realities that you are experiencing. So speaking about the bangle, just as a house may be fitted with a copper rod to absorb the shock of lightning, so too the bodily temple can be protected in certain ways. Electrical and magnetic radiations are ceaselessly circulating in the universe. They affect man's body for good and ill. Ages ago, our rishis pondered the problem of combating the adverse effects of subtle cosmic influences. The sages discovered that pure metals emit an astral light, which is powerfully counteractive to negative pulls of the planets. Certain plant combinations were also found to be helpful. Okay, so isn't that interesting? Also, these bands help to counteract radiation. So just so you know. So isn't that just such a beautiful, beautiful paradigm? I want to check our time. Oh gosh, okay. So I want to speak on one thing, and then we're going to look at the comments. And this is really something we can come back and we can do, karma part 2, karma part 4, karma. Now think about this though, the word karma, car. Your car, your vehicle, your chariot, your Merkaba. Car, ma, the etymology, matter, ma, the atoms that make us up. We are driving our vehicle, the Merkaba, in this third dimension. It's given its GPS. You're plugging into the little GPS in your vehicle, where you're going to go in life. By what you speak, the karmas that you speak and think into existence are what is going to drive your little vehicle, your Merkaba, in this realm. And so I like to think about this too, that, right, this whole karmas can be nullified, much like genetics. We come in maybe to a family, and I say this often, but we come in, with the genetics where everyone in the family has had breast cancer. We can change that. Bruce Lipton is a proponent of these epigenetics and doing a lot of work in that realm, where you can change your DNA. You can change that. You can change your karmas that you've come in with. So even though your natal chart might have the blueprint of your etheric, of your Akashik records, and like, oh, this is what you've come into this life with. As you connect with God source love, change your thinking about things, create new conditions. Even though that story will be there, it will go back down into the subconscious, and your conscious reality with the capital R will be given the right of way. You will no longer be hooked into those memories, like I'm no longer in the same way afraid of sharks. So I want to tell you this little story. So past life family, right here, right now, there's tons of you here online. Thank you on Instagram, especially. Oh, thank you. And Skylark here. And thank you. Oh, you're so welcome, Alonzo, on YouTube. We've known each other before, or do you feel that? But I tell you, there's so many. I'm so grateful. I love YouTube and I love Facebook, and my phone for Facebook says it's going to die soon. I'm so sorry about that. If it does, I thank you for being here. I charged it. I swear I did. I swear it was at 100%. Anyway. Okay, what was I saying? There's so many of you here on Instagram that I feel such a deep connection, and I'm so grateful for. And really in all counters of life. So what are the memories though? What past life memories have you brought in? I know for me, I have this predominant memory of being in Atlantis. And I was there, and there were these huge turbines, like a big airplane propeller. And what we were doing is we were using large chunks of quartz crystal in these turbines to create free energy. Now, I've had this memory with me as soon as I became turned on in my 16, 18, 19, when I started really heavily meditating. This was this thing coming up for me. Now, don't you know, I meet my friends and my family here on Instagram, and there's this resonance. And I feel, even though in this life, I don't have the mathematical mind, I don't have the scientific mind, but in the past life, I did. And now, here, through this divine happenstance of Instagram, I have this divine family, these companions, these soul companions that hold space for me, that know all this stuff. They know all of the metaphysics of electromagnetism. They know all of genius mathematicians, etc. And you know, I'm like, okay, 1 + 1 is 2, I think, in the matrix, right? Is that how it goes? And they hold space for me, though. You know, they give me books, you know, they send me information to help me understand and put together these processes. Well, in my mind, in my heart, when I go in there, I'm like, I know these people from Atlantis. We have done this before. We were the ones up there in the turbines generating that free energy. So who is with you now? Who's your tribe now? And I know we're here. It's everyone right here, right now. And I'm so grateful that you're here, right? But we are all holding space for each other. I feel that we are in a universal reincarnation, and that is something that David Wilcock, and I always pronounce his last name incorrectly, and that's funny that I say always, but it's Cock or Cox, and I can't ever remember that, so pardon me, David. But he speaks about this notion that we're all here right now for a universal reincarnation, and many feel like, oh, it's our transition into these different dimensions and into this raising of consciousness, moving into the Aquarian age, moving into this light age, and the yugas, we're going into these golden ages, right? And so just to think about that, and who surrounds you on your path now regarding your current karmas. So thank you so much. I'm going to have a look at the comments here on Instagram. I'm so grateful. Oh, thank you for joining, Mystic Artifacts. Hey, Royal Curves, Lulu, Leah, and Vajra Queen. Thank you so much, Sky Girl. Thank you for being honest and sharing your positive energy. You're so welcome, sister. Oh, Yatu, Joshua Faye, King Asit, what's up, brother? Blessings. Pepe, Vajra Queen says Pepe. Pepe is this little guy. I've been drawing Pepe for years. Our little stick figure guy here. King Asit says, organs speak, speaker, heart, beat, eardrum, music. For in the beginning was the word. Amen. You know? Okay. Nice phone. Eradicate the bad vibes. It's all about choice. Yeah, exactly. It's all about choice. We are constantly choosing in each moment and co-creating our experience of karma or not. I feel that this point, you know, that we go into this fourth dimensional consciousness, this 4DC, is that, you know, going beyond all that stuff where it all just drops away. And imagine that by your coherency, simply by your coherency, by your attunement with God, source, love and light is then cast through all thoughts, all words, all deeds, past, present, future, and they are given that light to be reorganized through love. I call love the quantum organizer. It reorganizes everything in love and light, and you come out and you have a different ability to perceive your surroundings and your environment, which then affects your environment and your surroundings and how it responds to you. King Asit later says, you've gained a little weight looking good. Oh, you're hilarious. Kush Dog, what's up, brother? The Motion Malcolm. Mikal, oh, blessings. Dane, you know, and I forgive me, I really would love to know how to properly say your name. There's some of us here, and I adore you, and I still don't know exactly how to say your name, but I think it's Dana. Is it Dana or is it Dane? I'm not sure, my love, but I really appreciate your support. Thank you for being here. Stephen Brown, blessings. Indeed, 4D Fighting Art says, indeed, trust the path and be in the flow. And Vajra Queen, speaking about the bangle, says, I wear one made of pure gold, copper, and silver. Okay, yes. And Dana says, I'm grateful for you, sister. I'm grateful for you too. Atlantis, you feel that? Ooh, 4D Fighting Arts says, ooh, Atlantis, we should chat about that one for sure. 4D Fighting Arts has a new podcast called 4D Thought Podcast. Check it out on Instagram. He's starting his new page. Follow him. We're going to be doing an interview soon, and I'm so excited for that. And Dee's here. Blessings, Dee. Golden Child energy. That's right. The logos. Oh, yes. The logos. You know, I really would love to do a show on the logos. Maybe we'll do that soon. Karma means good action. Dharma means purpose. Blessings. Yip, lens, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of your offerings, everyone. It is 11:59. So with that, we're going to be finishing here. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for your presence, for your love, for your light. Thank you for being here. Now, next week, tomorrow night, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time till 7 p.m. That's 8:30 p.m. start time, East Coast. Akashik Records Retrieval and Release workshop I'm doing. Go to my bio page, Linktree, the first little plugin on that Linktree. You can check it out. Lots of information. You can book right there online. $22 to $33 sliding scale. I would love to join with you on Zoom tomorrow night. You can subscribe to my website there. And next week, I'm hoping to have our first guest of the season. If not, we will be speaking on free will, which will be very exciting. So thank you again. Thank you, Skylark. Blessings and lots of love. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, over here in Facebook land. Blessings. And thank you, YouTube. I'm so grateful.